Leonardo from Dedicated Managers here again, and in this third video of this series, I've already done two videos already. The first one giving an overview of what I plan on doing with the project, or what I did with the project, and what I plan on showing throughout these videos. The second video I showed why I chose Oxygen and why I think it's the best tool out there. It's a lot of discussion in there, and why I think it's so great. And in this video, I want to talk about starting to use Oxygen, actually. So Oxygen is used, as I said in previous videos, to create the front end of this website. So all this layout, this stuff up here, the name, the menu, this picture here, this picture with the heading above it, and the videos are even in Oxygen. The schedule. This picture was done in Adobe Photoshop, but I built this schedule using Oxygen to make it look good with some custom code on the back end, and I'll show later how those two interact. But for now, in this video, I'm just going to show how to build the header and the footer, which are actually very simple. But you see that every page has a common header up here. So the home, the schedule, the video, whatever video I choose, all this stuff up here, contact page, this stuff up here is all the same. So that would be the header. And then down here, I have a very simple footer, just the links again, the major links again. Mostly that's for mobile, in case sometimes the menu navigation doesn't work impeccably well. Any navigation menu, I've seen issues on some phones, so I always put something at the bottom, some links. Normally there's a bigger footer section with the address and phone number and all kinds of other specialized links, but this is a simple website and we don't need all that stuff, so I just put this down there along with a copyright. So I'll show how I built that in Oxygen. So let's head over to, this is the main website, but I'm going to head over to the development website, and I will get loaded up. I'll head into the dashboard. Now you can see the development website. I should go back. The development website here is running the original WordPress install for 2000. I think it's been since 2017, but it's the 2018 theme, I think. So I need to go in and install / activate Oxygen. So I've already purchased and uploaded Oxygen. It's here. So now all I have to do is activate it. So I'll click activate there. And now that activated Oxygen. If we go back and look at the front end now, we have a blank website. So Oxygen has taken over. Remember, Oxygen was a plugin. I was in the plugins, but it has taken over the theme completely. And since I haven't built anything yet, there's nothing there. So when I installed Oxygen, I chose it to install blank without any starter templates. So I'm going to go and build my framework, which would be my header and footer, that the content will go in the middle of. So I'm going to go to Oxygen, open up templates, and I'm going to add a new template. I'm going to call it my main template. And then this is what I love about Oxygen, is I really don't have to understand the template hierarchy, at least not right away. And I can just go into other here and do catch-all. So I'll update that. And so now this template will apply. It says, where does this template apply? And I just made it apply to the catch-all. And so we'll head into Oxygen and edit the page. You don't edit the below part, you edit with Oxygen. So this is my only minor beef with Oxygen right now. There's a few bugs, but the load time here kind of slows down development. It gets a little bit frustrating, so you'll tend to keep, rather than flipping between the front end and the back end, you'll probably keep the back end open and switch between the two. So here it is loaded. This is the Oxygen visual editor. And so the first thing you want to do is open up your structure panel here, and this shows you what's happening. There's nothing happening yet. So then the second thing you want to do is add something. So I am going to simply add a div. And so that gives me a space up top to start working in. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to go into the helpers section here, I believe, and find social icons. And so I am going to stick the social icons in there. So if we go back and look at the main website, I put these social icons up at the top and I centered them. So let's try to center these guys. So let's get into the, let's go back to the structure panel here. And so the social icons are now a sub-element of the top level div. So I'm going to go back to the top level div and I'm going to tell it to stack the child elements vertically and then center them. So remember, this thing itself is a div, so they're not going to stack vertically within. But if there was another piece, which you'll see next when I add a heading, it will stack above. So let's go ahead and do that, and I'll add a heading. So that's why that stacks above each other rather than next to each other. So this is Flexbox Layout. Oxygen is a great way to learn about Flexbox Layout because you can just click buttons and play and see this. Really what it's doing behind the scenes is it's changing the flex, the column, the row. These are all CSS parameters that you can obviously learn about too and use to work with Flexbox. But that's kind of outside the scope of this. You can always just Google Flexbox, CSS Flexbox, and there's lots of tutorials out there on how to use Flexbox. But what's great about Oxygen is it really is a great intro in that it has these helper objects in the the visual inspector here. So I've got these two. The next thing I want to do is I want to we change this to Frank Caliendo, and then I made it bigger. I made it relatively large, so that's pretty easy. I can just go into the advanced here. Remember, I'm clicked on the heading right now, so I know I'm working with the heading. That's why I love this structure panel. I know what I'm working with. It's also highlighted up here. And I can go into typography. I think I could have clicked it on the primary too. They give you some this stuff is all shortcuts to stuff that's in here. So really I could have just clicked on primary and adjusted the size. So we'll get that about that size. And then we'll go back to these guys. I'm not going to fill in all the information, but this is where you put the links. Notice I clicked on it. I could have clicked here to get it to load over here, or I could have clicked on the screen to get it to load. But here's the links where you change the links. You can also change the space between if you want a little more space between. Change the icon size, and this gets really great when you start to change view sizes, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And then you can change the let's see, the icon color. There's nothing right now, right? So I could change it to, and I've been using this like soft black somewhere in there. Actually, I guess it was a little something like that. So that's the beginning of layout there. The next step is to put in a menu bar, and that's pretty simple. If we go back to the body level and add let's see, where is it? It's probably in WordPress. So these are WordPress objects that are configured through Oxygen. So Oxygen can bring in a menu. And this is an example menu because I haven't loaded a menu actually on the remember, this is a blank install, so there's no menu created yet. So Oxygen's pretty cool in that it just loads a fake menu until you fill something in. So the next step is to get that centered. Actually, I've made a minor mistake there. We are not going to use the menu component. We are going to use the header builder. So this is what we want. And the reason we want that is because when it shrinks, I believe, nope, hang on. Let's see. Now we want to, because that gives me the center, the ability to center easily. And then what I can do is grab the menu icon. Now I'm going to put the menu, and it's just click. That loads it. Now that loaded it into the first place, but I want it in the second place right there. So that centers it. It makes it easy. I could have done it the other way, put it in a div and centered it, I believe. But what we want to look at here is, so when we shrink it, it now comes to a small menu. And that would have done that before. So I didn't necessarily need the header row. Maybe not. It just made it easy to center. So now I've got my menu centered. I can style it up a little bit. So I'll click on the menu and I'll go down here to hover and active. This should be coloring. Background hover color, so I can change that. Where's the text color? So if I want those to be a little bit gray or black, right in there. Now there's also these global colors, which I should talk about real quick. So you can give a color a global name. Main color. Probably could come up with something better than that. But now it's a global color, so that when I go back to here and I want to change the text color of this guy, I can choose from the global colors. And now when I change my global color, it changes everywhere. So I'll go and assign this guy to the global color as well. The icon color, let's make that a global color. And now it should be, if I manage colors, I can click that there. That opens this up over here, which I can also get from, I believe, settings. Oops, settings. Yeah, it's in the settings section. Here's all settings. So we can go to page settings. Nope. What was under global styles, colors, and the global colors. So now when I go and change, I'm changing everything because it's a global color. So that's pretty awesome. That's a new feature in Oxygen 2.1. So that allows me to change a lot of things easily at once when I'm playing with the design and getting it towards where I want it to be. So let's just go like right in there, a little bit of gray. So the next thing to really care about is, well, let's make these a little bit bigger, and let's make the font size a little bit bigger. That was my boring alarm. I set alarms for when I'm boring. No, I'm just kidding. That was my just my phone for something else. But let's see, font size. Here we go. And this one doesn't seem to have a slider. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So let's make that like 32, and then let's give it a nice boldness to it. So that's about what I had over here. Let's go a little bit thicker. Let's go back to 700, and let's make this 24, 30. 30 should be about good. The other thing we might want to do is go back to the global settings here, and let's see if we can do the font. And I can change the font for the, if nothing has an assigned font, it'll pick up the main font. And I think I used Roboto on the so you can see that the display font affects one set of things, and the text font works with something with the text, obviously. So I think headings and stuff are in display font, and paragraphs and text and links are in text font, but I'm not exactly positive. So that's a basic replica of the header, very simple. The next thing, we go back to the structure panel, you can see we've built those two things. So the next thing we want here is the content area for where the the content will go. This stuff, the home page content. So when we go into an individual page and create it, we're going to give it its own content, but it's going to use the header and footer template, the main template that we're creating right here. So let's go find, let's see, it's probably under inner content. So that's going to be the content that gets loaded based on whatever. So we're not going to touch that right now. And then we'll create a footer. And my footer was really simple. It's just a div with another div. And you could go into, like, there's a library here if you wanted to get some help creating some really cool stuff. If we go into the library, I think I closed it. Oh, design sets, there it is. So there's a bunch of different design sets, and you can go and pick out, let's look at Hyperion, and we'll go into templates, pages. Maybe I didn't load the templates on this one. Here it is. So heroes and titles. So there's all this stuff that you can just click and it comes into your project. Here's the footers. So if I wanted to just have help with a footer, I'd just click that. And look at that. I've got a nice footer. Remember that inner content is still there. There's just nothing in it right now. So this would be the footer, and then I could go and adjust the footer to do whatever I needed to do for my company. So I could just, edit it to whatever it needs to be. And you put your logo here. You can change that image. So you can see by the inspector what's happening, right? And as I hover over things, it tells me where it is. So that's just how great it is to build with Oxygen. Now, my footer's not this complicated, so I'm just going to delete that. I don't need it. And now I'm going to add and go back to the basics and just add let's add a section this time. Section gives you a little bit of indenting. And within that, I'll add a div. And in that div, I will add a few, whoops, nope, didn't want that. So let's kill that. What I wanted was a text link. And then I'm going to make this, so I'm just going to kind of manually make this menu. Manually make this menu. There's better ways to do it, but this keeps it clean for me, so that if there's any issues with the menu system, this keeps the links available at the bottom. So now here's a cool thing. So I'm going to take this link and I'm going to give it its own selector. So it's got an ID, which I could edit if I wanted to, but I'm going to give it a selector, and I'm going to call it footer, not gooder, footer text, footer link. And I'm going to, oh no, I don't even need to copy that. So I'll add that class. So now everything I do when this class is highlighted, I could switch back to the ID, but I'm going to affect the class so that when I copy and paste this into more of them, it'll affect all of them. So let's do that now. I'll actually duplicate, and one more I think I need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So one more. Now you can see they're stacked because the section doesn't have or it's default. You can see that the dotted line. Sections default to Flexbox. So I could go back here and in the layout, you can see it's defaulted to Flex. I could default it to block, which I guess isn't going to change much right now. There's probably some other settings. But let's go back to the primary tab here. And so I'm going to tell it to stack them vertically. And let's see, I need to figure out why that's not happening. So let's go to this div, and this div that's what was happening. So this div's the primary here. So there we go. When I click that one, so the section is handling these divs. There's only one, so that's why it didn't change when I clicked this versus this, because there's only one element below it. This one has child elements, and so that way that one's stacking versus going horizontal, because its child elements are here. And so let's see. The next thing to do is really to, this is what's great about Flexbox. Normally you'd put spacing. You might try and put some CSS spacing in between these. But the great thing is I can just do space around, or I should be able to, in my Flexbox. And that should give me the space around. So I'm going to need to take a break and figure out why that's not working. All right, that's not working because if we look at this div is shrunk. It is not full 100% width because it itself is within a flexbox, and flexboxes, when there's a flexbox, the divs then shrink to their content size. So now we got to go back to the section, and so I'll make the section stretch, which is going to stretch this div 100% because it's the only div. Oops, I brought that outside. It's the only div underneath the section. So as soon as I did the stretch, that made you see the outer box, which is this div, it made that div go 100%. So if I take that off, that div, well, I don't think the inspector is showing that right, but it was shrunk before. So it's now putting space around the elements below it. So then we can go into the text links, and you can see, remember I gave one a class, so now when I change the font size of one, I change the font size of all of them. And if I change the weight to maybe something in there, and the color, let's make the color the global color. And so now I just need to go and change the text of each: home, schedule, video, contact. So there you have it. I'm going to save that. And if we go back to the front end, and again, this is where we don't want to deal with the loading times. So I'm just going to go back to the front end this way. And you can see I'm now on, well, these pages don't exist because this is a fake menu. So let's go back and make a couple pages. So I'll add new, and I'm going to take a break and not bore you to death, but I'll go and add the 5 pages. Actually, I should just show that, you know, here's how I make one page. All I do is give it a title, hit publish, and when it comes back, it's part of Oxygen. And then I just go add new. I add that. It becomes part of Oxygen. And so now I'll go and do the other ones manually. All right, so I just added all the pages. So if we go back and look at all pages, you can see I've got all the pages here. So now I just need to go create a menu. And this is just showing how Oxygen plays so nicely with regular WordPress. And so I'll just go and take all my pages, I'll add them to the menu, and I want home to come first. Schedule, I don't want that to be a sub item. Schedule, video, contact, and newsletter. I'll save that menu. And now if we go back to Oxygen, because I was working in a different tab, I'm probably going to have to reload that. But let's go back to the front end and see if that menu gets automatically populated. It did. So it picked up the fact that there is now a menu, so I didn't even have to put it in there. And if we go back to the editor, which should be loaded by about now, remember these I did, I used the menu system, these I did manually, so they were going to be right. But let's go and look at the menu system here, structure. I'm on the menu, and if we look at the where it's pulling the menu from, it's pulling a blank one, but I can't actually assign it to the main menu in case I create another one. So I save that. That didn't do anything other than future-proof it if I create another menu. So now I've got my top menu system. I didn't make the subpages are somewhat irrelevant. I'll talk about how I used the plugin to get the video to show up, but that's the only drop down. And maybe I'll add these subpages later. But for now, we've got the main menu, so it shows up there. And I could easily style that, you know, with some more color. You know, using this stuff over here, the hover and active. Again, the hover text color, right? It turns red when it turns that. So you can play with all kinds of stuff. Oxygen makes it really easy to edit visually. So again, I think I saved that already. But now all my pages, they have, you know, they're all the same because they're all just using the default template. So let's go into the home page. and I'll quickly add something so that we can see that stuff actually shows up. So let's go to Oxygen. I want to edit the page, and I want to edit the page in Oxygen. I'm going to pause this while this loads. So here it is, it loaded, and it's telling me here's where you are. So it knows that the template is the main template because it's the catch-all, and I didn't assign anything to it back in the main menu. So I can add content here. It knows where to add it. So if I just add, say, a heading, and I say this is the home page, save that. And now when we go back to the front end, you'll see that when I'm on the home page, I'm getting the home page content filled in. So the schedule would be the same thing. If I added the schedule, you would see the schedule here. So that's the main home page. In the next video, I'm going to break here. In another video, I'm going to show how to work with the responsiveness and make this look better, because right now, if we inspect this and choose a different size, you can see that some of this stuff is a little oversized, and the bottom links don't look as good. So I need to work on the styling at various sizes. So I'll do that in another video. Again, Terry Caliendo, Dedicated Managers. This video is a part of a series where I'm talking about customizing a WordPress project using custom post types and some advanced programming that I'll get into later. And we are dedicated managers. If you have a project that you need help with, or you need to outsource a project, or you just want to not even have to think about it and this stuff is all too much for you, send it over to us. We'll be happy to help you with it. Dedicatedmanagers.com, and you can contact us through the website. So take care, have a great day, and happy website programming and creation. Notice I didn't say happy programming that time. Take care.